Hey everybody, it's Daniel and Matt here, Frontier Capital Trust. Sorry for the delay. We've been dealing with some technical difficulties here. Hopefully now everything is sorted out. We're using a little bit of a streaming service so that we can do some screen sharing on the Facebook Live as we go over some of the free resources we have and take questions for everybody. Yes, here we go. It looks like it is working. So Matt and I are just going to wait a minute to get everybody into the room here. And yeah, we'll take some questions. There may be a little bit of a delay between when you make your comment and when we're able to respond to it, just because of the delay on the stream. So, just bear with us. We'll get to your questions and comments. And yeah, thanks for joining us here. This is our first time doing things in this format, but it is pretty cool to be able to share screen and share, some of the material so you guys can see what we have to offer when you go to our little links and sign up for the free videos and the PDFs and such. Matt, are you seeing the live video on your end?
I am.
Okay, great.
I'm just trying to make sure I get it sent out.
Yep, great. Yeah, so give us a few minutes as we wait for some people to jump into the room here.
Yeah, and if you'd like to, just go ahead and any burning questions that you have, go ahead and throw them up, and we will get to all of them.
All right, Matt, let me know when you're ready. I shared the video a few times, and I know we have some people who are waiting, so we can just jump into it while we wait for questions.
Yeah.
So let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, so we decided that we'd like to start off this live stream with a piece of scripture from Luke 11:52. Woe to you lawyers, for you have taken away the key of knowledge. You did not enter yourselves, and you hindered those who were entering. And we, of course, have the image of Christ flipping the tables of the money changers. And so this is a pretty symbolic image of what we are doing and the spirit in which we are doing it. Daniel and I both have done a lot of research into just the way that the machinery behind the scenes work. And this scene with Christ flipping the table of the money changers is an allegory for kind of an energy that's ever present in our world. And as we're seeing now with, rapid inflation due to, money changers flipping money back and forth and printing it out of thin air, we think that it's time to, in truth and righteousness, flip those tables over. And we're using the skills that we have, utilizing these trusts to do that and to help people do that. So
yeah, and it's absolutely a pertinent thing. I mean, calling out lawyers by name, look at what's being said here. You have taken away the key of knowledge. And the reason why Matt, myself, and Javier, our other business partner, are trying to get as much information and as much content out as possible is because to understand the actions that we're taking and the way we're operating ourselves in commerce and administering our own legal and financial affairs, there's a lot of background information and sort of scaffolding and foundation that people need to even understand what the heck's going on. I mean, we're in a world of contracts, and most people nowadays, you just click the I agree to the terms and conditions because I want to access my Apple Music, Spotify, this, that, and the other. We've kind of become the society on planet Earth which doesn't read the fine print, doesn't understand it even if we were to read it. And, obviously this is a prevalent theme for humanity for thousands of years. You have taken away the key of knowledge. Attorneys and lawyers, when we think about the law as individuals, we think about this system of complexities that we have no hope but to navigate. We have no hope to navigate it without the advice of someone who, for profit, for personal gain, is able to navigate that for us. And so what happens there, and it's exactly what Jesus is saying in this. You have taken away the key of knowledge. You did not enter yourselves, and you hindered those who were entering. So if we want to navigate life, the challenges of life, the contracts between other human beings and institutions, and navigate this current system of affairs, does it really help us to be so helpless and naive when it comes to the world of business, finance? And you can extrapolate that to anywhere that law is involved: real estate, education, estate planning, all of the things that deal with our ability to generate resources and use them for the benefit of ourselves and our families, and really extrapolate that to make the world a better place. And so we're in this very complex web of forces, and it's extremely overwhelming for people to even begin to think about, how do I take responsibility for my existence in this situation? We're not going to change anything if we don't understand what everything is that's all happening in order to change it. In order to change something, we have to first know what it is to begin with. So when Frontier Capital Trust and those of us who are working here to spread this message are talking about, some of the benefits of utilizing, the private sector, the privacy of trusts, certain aspects of charitable and spiritual faith-based organizations to, go out and not only achieve a beneficial tax status and to, limit tax liability as much as possible, but to protect our assets from, undue theft or seizure, as well as go out there and accumulate and become the stewards of this wealth that we've now protected. And what does that mean? And so everything that Matt and Javier and I talk about, there is a precedent in case law, and trust law is very old and goes back to, before the US, to British law, before that to sort of like Greek law and canon law, biblical law. And so it is really pertinent to start off with this, because what we're trying to help everybody do is begin to understand how to navigate certain aspects of their own legal and financial affairs to start off with. We are not attorneys. We don't claim to be. We are not financial advisors. We don't claim to be. What Frontier Capital Trust does is lay out the information in a graduated way so that you can begin to absorb and understand the system that you're in and how you have more ability to navigate that than you may have known. So that's just a really brief intro. Thanks. We've got some people here. I'm going to make sure that I have the comments available just in case anybody has any questions. But our intention for this live video is to take you guys through some of the free resources that we have and kind of just go over the basics of some of the key points, and then, point you in the right direction to be able to go off and begin your study on that. So Matt, I don't know if you want to bring up principles of trusteeship first, or if you had any other comments before we segue out of this poignant, quote from the Bible, if there's any other remarks that you have.
Yeah, I really appreciated the way that you put that what we're doing is, people think of trust, they think of attorneys, they think of state licenses, all of these things. But the thing to wrap your head around is that what we're doing with Frontier Capital is we're showing you there are contract forms that you as a free individual can use with your own pen hand to create a legal entity that can operate in commerce with, the massive benefits that come from living that way. And so there's this linchpin of which entity type are you going to use, who created it, who owns it. And so the legal person that 99% of us are using is property of the government, and it has terms and conditions attached to it. And so the benefit of using a trust is it's an entity that you create with your own pen hand. You customize the terms of the contract, and you're not appealing to an outside source to create it. And so it has advantages that using the de facto legal person simply doesn't have. And so we are showing people, we have proven templates with much success, people holding assets, making investments, starting businesses, setting up generational wealth containers. All of these things can be done, and we're showing people how to do that for themselves. And so should we tackle that what is common law question?
I think we should. I think that's going to come up here in a little bit. I mean, if you want to take that, it's a good segue, but also I think it will start to become a little more evident as we get into the next document.
Yeah, I think I will tackle it just real quick, just
Mhm.
because I think it is a good lead up to this point here that we wanted to highlight.
And Matt,
So,
if you need me to increase the screen, like if you want people to be able to read along with you, just let me know, and I'll switch the view over.
okay, yeah. So I guess with common law, what common law is, it is the unspoken law which governs living free men, and so the common law is essentially do no harm to others or their property and make no threats against them. And we don't need giant tomes of legal statutes to enforce this. It is the core operating principle of the Commonwealth system. And so the difference between common law and statutory law is that statutory is these large tomes of complex legalese and statutes which limit or constrict or define or control things, whereas common law is, say if I go over to Daniel's property and I break something intentionally or I make a threat against him, that is one living man making a threat and harming another living man or his property. So in that case, under common law, you get, sentenced or punished accordingly to that. But the statutory is this whole made up system affecting and limiting legal devices and creating definitions and categories for people. And so that's where you get into, traffic citations. There is no injured party, but under statute law, you have broken the code and therefore they will enforce that policy against you. And so we thought it was really important. This is from our the who, what, why of common law express trust that you can find at courses.frontiercapitaltrust.com/findfreedom. And Javier, our partner, collected all of this information, compiled it, wrote this document, and did a video on it that you can find at that link. And this is a smoking gun in the world of people trying to understand what the problem is and what the solution is. And so I wanted to share this part here. City of Dallas versus Mitchell from 1922. The rights of the individual are not derived from government agencies, either municipal, state, or federal, or even from the Constitution. They exist inherently in every man by endowment of the Creator and are merely reaffirmed in the Constitution and restricted only to the extent that they have voluntarily surrendered by the citizenship to the agencies of the government. The people's rights are not now derived from the government, but the government's authority comes from the people. Now, you don't have to do much processing to see how far away from that we have fallen, but it is the truth. It is, doesn't matter where we are. The truth of the matter is that you are a living being whose only authority that you need to answer to is your Creator, and however you define that is up to you. The real important thing, I think, is that you realize that the government didn't create you and doesn't have the right to treat you as if it did.
Yeah, that's great, Matt. And I think another way that I would clarify just the question, what is common law, as opposed to the realm of statutory law, is that it is almost the law of common sense, and it's the law of without these man-made, created concepts, conceptual. Like the government is a concept. The statutes of the law that the government writes is also a concept. It doesn't exist in form, it exists in idea, and we all participate in it, which makes it real. Common law is the law of accountability to each other. If someone harms someone else, what is the next logical step? You hold them accountable to that. And so this is the foundation of, if you yourself can't hold someone accountable, you gather a jury of your peers, a community, the people who are around you who have the ability to band together to hold someone accountability for theft or murder or any of the trespass, anything that they have done. Whereas statute is this, again, as Matt was saying, it's not, I don't want to use the word make believe because it is enforced by the current system and our participation in it. But essentially, it's the litany of case law and legislation that is constantly being passed. I mean, you look at what the Senate and the House of Representatives are doing now, and you have these gigantic bills full of garbage that no one really actually wants. But, you know, through our consent and through our representative government, we've sort of lost touch with this chain of accountability. And so we have this litany of thousands and thousands of tomes of legal resources and legislation and municipal code and all of these things that if you come back down to the law of common law, it's like if there is no injured party, if there is no trespass, if there is no injury, then everything else is something that we contractually agree to do together. And so if you really look at the root of where everything we're currently dealing with comes from, it is a lack of contract with these statutory entities, which have sort of, inverted the reality that their existence comes from our authority and consent. Rights and freedom comes from God within us. It does not come from the government. Government comes from us. And so really, if you trace back the authority, statutory law comes down to the consent of the governed representing themselves in these current systems that we have. And then beyond that, the power of the individual comes from their creator. So, in terms of operating common law in court, that's not something that our work really particularly pertains to. We are in the process of avoiding these issues prior to happening by operating in the private sector. So, getting into common law in court is going to be a really deep rabbit hole that we advise you to just, stay out of that as often as possible. A trust has certain abilities to protect you from financial liabilities or tax liabilities, but it does not have the ability to protect you criminally or, even in these statutory courts where we could say, there's technically no contract. How can they compel your performance? It can get really messy there when you think about trying to represent yourself as a common law man or woman in the court system. So we're not really going to get into that. Please feel free to reach out. We can point you to some resources if you're curious about that. But really the name of the game with the trust law is taking the full advantage of operating in a private capacity with a commercial entity that is of your own creation and therefore not granted to you by state authority. So this may be a good segue into either, the personhood, or I'm not sure if there's anything else coming up for you, Matt, but whatever you feel, sharing about legal entities.
Yeah, I did want to show that there is this really brilliant information in the document here. And I wanted to also point out, people may wonder, okay, what's this deal with trust? I keep hearing about trust. Why a trust? What's so great about a trust? And this right here shows that the way in which our government system, our corporate government system has been set up, there is something called a resulting trust. And so this is a good opportunity to explain. There's really only two types of trust: implied or express. And so a resulting trust is an implied trust. It's something that's not written down, but it is implied by legal effect, essentially. And so what we usually think of in court is an equity jurisdiction. And that's where you get treated as if you don't have rights. They say that you're innocent until proven guilty, but the opposite is in effect what is true. And so the reason why that happens is the individual is treated as a beneficiary or negligible trustee of a classic resulting trust, in which the individual has no rights but privileges via the implied foreign jurisdiction. And so this is the mechanics behind how the government is making a claim that you, even though you have not contracted with them, are compelled to perform. And this is the action caused by the resulting trust of the legal person and entering into that unwitting contract with the government. And so they say, oh, well, you're a trustee of this trust, whether you know it or not. You broke one of the trust bylaws, which is, their statutory legalese, and then they hold you accountable. And so the way to extrapolate that is if you have a trust, you have a set of codes, a set of laws, essentially, and all parties of the trust must obey the laws that are written in that trust. And if they don't, then there's recourse within, punishments or accountability created by the trust itself. And so they're a fractal reality of that. They've done a perverted version of that, and that is the mechanics of how they're getting us to perform.
Yeah, so I just want to slow down really quick and really get through some of those terms for people, because we don't have a lot of questions coming through, guys. If anything is seeming like over your head or making your head spin, that is a great opportunity to just comment, "Hey, I don't understand. Let's slow it down." So we're trying to, in a sense, essentially figure out where is the authority over our lives when we understand that, hey, if there's no contract, if you don't have expressly written contract, I'm free to do anything that doesn't harm anyone. That is what we all understand freedom to mean. But of course, we are in this sort of like split personality, especially here in America, of, well, we understand what freedom means, but how come there are all these places where we're just bound to this authority and we're not allowed to question, and it's very clear that we're not free, and things that don't make sense, such as certain traffic rules or municipal codes, or let's talk about, the ability to consume, one's own herbal medicine or sacrament, or, something that is not approved by these regulatory bodies, such as maybe the FDA or something like that. We all understand that that doesn't really make sense. How did these outside entities gain that authority? And so one of the key terms to take away from this conversation is the effect of jurisdiction. So jurisdiction is, you can think of almost the container, the body of law that allows someone to apply authority to that. And so when Matt was highlighting that section in the documents that you can find on one of our website pages, he's talking about equity jurisdiction versus common law jurisdiction. So in common law jurisdiction, again, we'll repeat, we understand that as long as we're not harming someone, trespassing, stealing, hurting, killing, something that physically harms, or even, financially or mentally or spiritually harms another person, that's where that accountability comes in, a jury of the peers, an actual trial by jury. Whereas this equity court is, again, in that statutory system that already assumes that it's got jurisdiction over us because of one key factor. And I don't know if anything else is pulling out to you right now, but this would be a really great time to go into the legal personhood through in the principles of trusteeship.
Yeah. And then I think one thing that we should probably touch on is just to demystify the whole idea. I know that there's a lot of intimidating language around this stuff, and I think it would be good for people to just get us to give a zoomed out view of what does it look like to operate as a trust.
Yes.
In your daily life, like, what's the difference? Because in people's minds, I'm sure it's much more complicated than what it actually is. So
yeah, that sounds great. Let's go over that personhood, because that is the thing that they are being granted jurisdiction by, because the person is their creation, and we'll talk about that. And then we can sort of like you said, zoom out and look at, what's the difference between finding freedom through the use of a common law trust and being a party to these contracts? Like, what degree of freedom, this is not the one fits all solution for everything, but this can create a lot of additional flexibility in your life as we figure out the rest of how do we tackle this system and create a more just and equitable world. So yeah, I think the person is really the next thing to help people understand. We just spoke about jurisdiction. You now know that there's a difference between statutory or equity jurisdiction and common law. Now, what is that key factor that automatically places you into that? Matt, do you want to read the person and citizen?
Sure. A generally unknown fact is that there are several types of citizens now existing in America. The trustees of an express trust may seek protection under the Constitution as state citizens throughout the Union of States. a jurisdiction outside the scope of the 14th Amendment. It should be noted of all citizenship, 14th Amendment or otherwise, that jurisdiction over natural and artificial persons is distinguished without a fundamental difference. This stems, surprisingly, from the operation of in rem jurisdiction which underlies all civil law. Though all courts are familiar with the action in personam against persons, it is the action in rem against things which, though practiced only in maritime law, stealthily operates in every civil and criminal court. This principle is one of the least understood in its entirety. In rem jurisdiction over a man or woman can only exist if the man or woman is a slave, property, or res, an object, in which case his or her disposition at law is no different than if he or she were a horse or other goods. In nature, in rem jurisdiction is exercised over men and women by their creator exclusively. Governments, therefore, gain only a fictional in rem jurisdiction over men by creating various legal devices, personas, for those men to assume limited control. Since the device is legal fiction, a falsehood made true by force of law, this persona is in fact a legal object or res, just as in theater, the person is separate from the man or woman playing the part. Therefore, there may be artificial persons but not artificial men, natural persons but not natural men. And so, yeah, this is a really good and concise way of wrapping all of this up. How is it that we are born of God? How is it that how is that power being usurped by the government and enforced upon us against our will? And this right here shows you the creator created you, the government created a legal fiction, a kind of Diet Pepsi version of you, and they exercise their authority over that fiction. And it is because of our own association with that fiction that we willingly enter into engagements with that behemoth.
Yeah, and this is where people start to get a little bit confused too, because there's a lot of talk about, in general, like a sovereignty movement and everything. I mean, it's important to understand what is happening when you're being born into this world and you are immediately, your foot is stamped on the birth certificate. There's a huge esoteric significance to that in terms of, your foot before it even hits the soil of the earth is hitting this, paperwork jurisdiction, this paperwork matrix of, self-created, I guess I'm not sure of the proper word. I want to go back to that. Yeah, I mean, this is a thought form. This is a creation of man as opposed to creation of God. So, there's a lot to be said about the birth certificate and the social security number and all of these things. And, where we've kind of come to arriving at is a lot of people are considering, well, I've got to, rescind my birth certificate and I've got to, exit my social security number. But then how do I navigate the current world that I'm in if I still, if I can't use my social security number? And it creates a lot of stress and duress for people, because what's the alternative to using your social security number? Well, you can't have a bank account. You most likely will not know how to get a passport, although I've heard that there are methods to do that. And so, this is where, utilizing a trust comes in to where, it may not be the end all be all way to sever ourselves, but it is a way to sort of create a parallel, which is useful in navigating the current landscape of commerce, etc. And we can utilize this to move through this current system, even if we can't completely sever from it. And that's important, because there's no alternative system to be a part of right now. I feel strongly, Matt feels strongly, we all feel strongly that the people that we're working with are the ones who are going to be building this alternative infrastructure, and that's we're here to empower the new earth builders to move forward with the tools necessary to create that. But as of right now, we're kind of in this time of transition where if you sever yourself completely from this system, you're not going to be able to, do things like apply for a job. And we're not all ready to be entrepreneurs or self-employed. You won't be able to, get your driver's license, and, just going from A to B is going to be a challenge for you now. And we have tons of friends and connections and peers across the country who are pushing the envelopes of freedom and sovereignty in those directions. But that's not for everybody. I personally am not the kind to take the license plate off of my car, although I see some people who know how to work around the lingo. They know how to interface with the statutory government in that way and its enforcement, and they walk away from that without a scratch. That is wonderful, and I hope that they teach people how to do that. For me, I've been more concerned with the business and the financial side so that we can get this alternative resource infrastructure open so that there is not just one legal entity to choose from, but hopefully two different systems of operation. And that's a lot of a bigger picture concept. So I think maybe it's time to just zoom out and talk about what life is like and what the benefits are. Matt, if you want to take some of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to say that, one of the consistent things that we see from people that we work with and the effect that it's had in my own life is that, everybody has a passion and a way that they can help others, some sort of gift, some gift that they're here to bring. And it seems like with the current tax structure, it makes no sense that people who are struggling to get by and living paycheck to paycheck are getting, 30% of their income taken out of their paychecks every week. That is a, soft form of slavery that keeps people from being able to really build up enough to get themselves out of the hole and do what they're passionate about. So what happens when you open up a trust and you restructure things so that you are, making your money through the trust or, benefiting from it that way, that opens up not only just monetary currency, but, energetic currency for you to play with the possibilities. And also being able to open a trust for doing business, whether you're doing, some sort of spiritual service, some coaching, online service. When you switch over to using a trust, it's very quick and easy to create that entity. And it's has major benefits in that you don't have to report to the IRS. They never ask you to report to the IRS. So there's this kind of energetic swing that happens when you decide to step into this. And it is a leap of faith. People are terrified of the government and terrified of the IRS, but it's been our experience, our direct experience, that the only thing really holding us back is our fear. And that's why we've taken so much painstaking effort to compile all of this information about the legal precedents, the case law that upholds the power of these trusts, so that people can really get over that doubt hurdle and step into this with confidence and really understand what it is that they're doing. And so I guess to touch on what it looks like to operate as a trustee, it really looks the same as what you're doing now. The difference is when you take an action, you are generally writing your own contracts. Other than that, you have a bank account and a debit card that you use. You just use different ways of filling out, say, a W-9 form for doing independent contracting work. The real difference is just that you're putting in the name of a trust and an EIN rather than your legal person. And then aside from that, it's just a bank account. It's just an EIN number that you can use to put on documents that classify it as being property of the trust in service to the beneficiary.
I like how you mentioned the energetic swing, because what we're really doing, and this might be we're on the perfect page to explain this to, in relation to the contract of a trust, is between three different parties. But that energetic swing that Matt's talking about, it really turns the entire financial system on its head. Because look at the world that we live in right now. Everybody sees what's going on. And, some of us are abjectly opposed to the current system and maybe choose to blame capitalism or think it's some ism or it's corporate cronyism in the government. Whatever it is, it's essentially what we're dealing with is a manifestation of greed. It is, I'm going to, do whatever possible to make the most for myself. Me, I, me, mine. And I love that because it makes me think of the Beatles song, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. It's that self-centered, egoic perspective that says, this belongs to me. I want to increase my benefit over others. What we're talking about with this energetic shift is a release of that beneficial interest in the paperwork itself and in the life and in your activities going through the world. It is a release of the beneficial interest for the benefit of a third party. So the grantor of a trust is the initial donor, so to speak, or the one who is releasing the beneficial interest over whatever the asset is, whether that's money or property or a business or a revenue stream. They're saying, this is no longer my personal thing. I'm going to give this to the trust, and I will have the trustee, a trusted fiduciary manager, who is motivated, perhaps by private contract. Maybe there's something in it for the trustee, or maybe there's nothing in it for the trustee. They're just the person for the job. Yes, great idea, Matt. Let's switch the screen here. Let's go over here. 1 second. Let's see. Why is it not switching? Hold on a second. We're having some technology problems, guys. Oh, I see. I've got to unclick this button here, and then we'll move over to this view. Cool. Isn't technology great when it works? So as I was saying, that rather than that paradigm of let me get to the top of the pyramid, where everybody above is always stealing from whoever is below, we are inverting that completely, and the top of the pyramid is now the bottom, and everybody who is above is being lifted up by this. It's crazy how much of this is inverted truth, inverted the way things really would work in nature to allow things to grow and flourish. We've been living in opposite world. So everybody is now lifted up, and those are the beneficiaries. Those are the people, whether that's your children, your children's children, or your community or your church group, or even just the nameless people that you'll never know who, let's say you build that retreat center that you always dreamed of, and it exists for 300 years beyond your time. If you draft your trust documents in such a way that they're managed well, you're going to be creating something that will be governed long after you're here. And so, we're out of this I, me, mine thing. It's not about that anymore. And so, it's really important when we speak to people that we tell them, like, this is not just a loophole. Don't go around calling yourself a church or a ministry or a charity if you're not actually planning on doing that. But the people that we talk to and the people that gravitate towards us, they understand that this is not about them. This is about creating something for the world that makes it a better place. And so, if you really have that heartfelt desire to do something, to build something for someone other than you, then if you're taking care of your expenses along the way, that's a reasonable expense of the trust. And so this is how we are reverse engineering what the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, likely Trump, Kennedy's, all these case examples over time of wealthy people who have, for their own benefit, used these structures in the law to avoid personal accountability or personal liability. We're reinventing that, and we're switching it over for the people's good. And so, it's a whole paradigm shift, the energetic shift. Those were the perfect words to discuss it, Matt.
Yeah, and we are flipping the tables symbolically by taking these instruments which have historically been used for self-enrichment and greed and protecting super wealthy interests from the rules that they're laying out for everybody else, and we're flipping those tables over and using those tools to liberate each other and to create a network of private association where we are not entering into contracts that we don't know about. And so I guess as far as the what I wanted to say about the structure and how it changes is that your beneficiary could be a child, it could be a cause, it could be it's actually pretty open-ended on who you want your beneficiary to be. It's always best to have a clearly defined beneficiary. But what you do is you end up transforming your life, as Daniel said. Everything that you own, everything that you use within the trust is expressed in contract form. I'm not the owner of this. I'm merely holding on to it in service to another party. And that is one of the reasons why it is a beautiful way to set up a charitably oriented business. And so how Frontier Capital Trust is structured is we use this as a way to charitably offer this information and knowledge to people. So what we do is we have typically a series of 3 consultations. The first one, we teach you everything you need to know to get your account open. The second one, we teach you per your own needs, how to use that trust for the maximum benefit possible. And then a third one for follow-up and technical and goal planning and stuff like that. And then on top of it, we supplement those consultations with our course material, which is compared to anything else that is out there, it is bar none the best available. You're not going to find that information compiled anywhere else. Javier has done an amazing job of compiling this information. And just like all these documents that we've been looking at so far today, this is all purely a creation of Javier. He is a wizard when it comes to doing the deep dives on this stuff and compiling the case law and showing it all in a very clear way. And so what we do is we enroll people, they get access to the course and 3 of those consults. And we base our pricing structure based on income so that people who are going to save $10,000, $100,000 in the next year to 10 years, they're going to pay a little bit more than people who are struggling to make ends meet, just want to start their coaching business or get some small entrepreneurial endeavor off the ground. We also have the scholarship courses for, if you're in an acute situation, you're completely flat broke, but you recognize the value of what we're offering. And we've helped over 30 people so far in the last 6 months, 7 months, gain access to this material for extremely reduced, and some of them even for free, just because our goal, number one, is not to make money. It's to offer these tools to anybody who is at a place where they're ready to wield the power of it. So that's how we have structured ourselves, and it allows us to offer tax-deductible receipts to people who, make donations to our cause. And that is kind of the model that we, show other people as possible. And you could sell insurance and use the proceeds from that to serve your charitable mission. You can get really creative in the ways that you can help people, or how you choose to serve people using one of these trusts. So I just wanted to add that in just to give people kind of an understanding of what we do and how we do it and what this looks like. And then also, I just wanted to say that, it seems like a lot of new words, a lot of, technical verbiage and confusing stuff that you need to learn. But really, once you understand the basics of where does jurisdiction come from, what are the ramifications of using different entity types in business, after you understand those two, the rest of it is kind of peripheral, and everything kind of falls into place. And, a majority of the people that we work with are not wizards. They haven't spent a bunch of time understanding trust law, but that is the importance of our consultations and our course material to allow people to digest that information and really feel confident that they know what they're doing before they, take the next step.
Yeah, that's perfect, Matt. And it's so much more than just paperwork. And I really caution everybody out there looking into this. I mean, I already mentioned that there's a lot of information when people start really looking into freedom and how to take control of their rights and fully utilize every single one of their rights. It's a really deep rabbit hole, and there's all these methods and means. It's really important that you're not just drawn in by the promises or the benefits of what the paperwork can do, because our paperwork is only as good as our trustees' ability to navigate the waters of their own affairs. And what we really want to bring home to people when working with us, when we talk to anyone about this, we're always extremely cautious. We lay out all of the information so that you can make the best and most comfortable step for yourself. But we really hope that everybody who walks away from dealing with us really understands the nuances of this private operation versus public operation, and how to have a keen eye for liability. Because what we're dealing with now is we have the ability, privacy is our greatest protection. And so how do we navigate everything that we want to do in the world and retain that privacy? When are some of our goals going to come with a little bit more exposure risk? There's a very big difference between using a trust for protecting a piece of property that will never have any contracts with any third parties, will never need to be known about. So who cares what you name it? And who cares, just don't tell anybody about it. That's your private, irrevocable trust for your home, for your kids. Versus if you want to operate in a more charitable or spiritual aspect and you have a public service or you have a revenue model that you want to fund your, if money wasn't an issue and the sky was the limit, what would you be doing on planet Earth? What is your passion and what is your service mission? If you want to have something a little bit more out there in the public, that's something that, comes with a different set of liabilities. Tax liability is one thing. Personal liability is another. You can still make someone unhappy and have them feel like there's grounds for a lawsuit. So it's really important that as people are considering transitioning from how they currently operate, which is 100% exposed to all types of personal liability, how do we move through that and what looks right for you? There's people who see this and they want to go all in and they say, get everything out of my name. I never want to have any personal income or personal assets ever again. What does that look like? There's also people who are maybe a bit older and have worked their whole life and have built something meaningful that are a little bit less risk tolerant and they're a little more cautious about moving forward. So what does it look like setting up your trust entity on the back end while keeping your front facing operations the same? So there's so much nuance. This is a tool that can be applied in so many different possible scenarios. How do you strategically use the tool to navigate the board game into where you want to get to with your finance and your business goals? So we're right about at an hour, Matt, unless there's anything else you feel like. And just to put out to everyone, this information that we've been sharing on the side is all available. Matt mentioned the link earlier. We're going to have that in the comments in the description as well if you want to follow up with it. And you can just put in your email address and get access to that information.
The website is courses.frontiercapitaltrust.com/findfreedom. And that will bring you to the why, the how, the who, and the what about common law express trust and the video that Javier did on that. And then on the same page, you can put in your email and get the principles of trusteeship sent to your email. And both of these are, I cannot really overstate how important these two documents are and how much valuable information is contained in them and how many hundreds of hours of research that you can spare yourself. If you just try to Google, common law express trust, you're not going to find hardly any information. And what you will find is actually a bunch of, I don't want to say outright lies, but a bunch of selectively given stories from Forbes and all these other, titans of industry that are trying to convince people that this is something spooky and illegal. So it's really important that people get a fundamental understanding of, the law that upholds all of this stuff so that they can move forward constructively.
I do believe thanks for the question, Derek. I do believe that we will be able to save this. So just keep an eye out. We'll keep track of all the comments here. Appreciate all the great feedback, everybody. Thank you, Kimberly, Bobby. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Matt and myself have been, operating this way for, between the two of us, over 5 years now. And, obviously privacy is the name of the game. So in the very beginning stages of experimenting with a lot of this, I wasn't out there shouting it from the rooftops unless you've been following me on Facebook for a few years. And so now is the time, though, with the past 2 years of all the things that have going on, people are starting to be aware of, if we don't end this overreach into our freedoms now, what's going to happen? It's time. And thank you all for being open to the information and able to receive it, because it's been a lonely road for many a year of hoping that people will wake up to this. And now it's the time to, with a bit of years under our belt, open up and share with you guys and begin this venture. So thank you. Thank you all. We'll let you know about the replay, and that'll probably be available somewhere. And we'll make sure everybody finds out. If you've been interested, we'll share that link with you.
Yeah. And I think, it may be a good idea for us to do this fairly regularly. So we'll let everybody know about that. Make sure you find us on the Facebook page and follow that. The algorithms are going to squash everything that we do. So, it's probably going to be a case where you're not going to get all the notifications every time we post something, but just check in with us. We do try to post as often as possible to just get the word out there as well. And yeah, thank you everybody for taking the time to sit down and hear us out today.
Oh yeah, one last thing I just thought of. When you go to the link that we mentioned to get access to this material, you're also going to see the application to work with us one-on-one or in a group. And we have a goal to take every single applicant that is of sound mind and a responsible and trustworthy party. You know, we're not here to put powerful tools into the hands of people who are not responsible and trustworthy enough to use them. So we do have this application process, but regardless of your income, it is our mission and duty to serve you. So, you know, we're not out here to squeeze as much money out of people as possible, but we have a thorough and rigorous application program and a review of that application in a Zoom call so that, you know, we can get to know you a little bit about what you're trying to do, and you can ask your questions to us directly, and we can decide to work together. And those who are, you know, savvy entrepreneurs and business people who may stand to save, like Matt said earlier, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax liability over the course of the rest of their life or their business, we would just hope that those are the people who would see the value and be willing to pay it forward a little bit so that we can, you know, reach out and help more than just 30 people. Because at the end of the day, this is about turning the tides, and this is about bringing back the energy of stewardship and righteous resource acquisition so that we can build everybody up from the pyramid rather than, you know, top down and, you know, force submission and gain control and steal from people. And we really truly believe that we're working with the people who are going to be building the new Earth infrastructure. So if that's you, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're more than happy to give as much time and energy as we can to get you up to speed. That is all completely free. And then if you want to have us work with you to draft paperwork, to educate you, to do strategic consulting, that's where we have the application process, and we would want to, you know, just come to a negotiation around what the value of that is. So very flexible. Don't be afraid. We're here to help. And thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Yeah. And then I did just want to mention as well that, you know, when we issue a tax deductible receipt, that essentially makes our service free to people who have any kind of a tax liability. So that's just another benefit of working with us and helping fund our mission. And again, like Daniel said, if you're going to stand to gain an immense amount of energy and wealth from this, and you believe in what we're doing enough to want to purchase from us, we just ask that you see that, you know, we are here to help as many people as possible. And that is what our decisions are informed by. So we've been very blessed with very good clients so far since we started last year. And I really, really appreciate everybody that we've worked with. And I'm really, really excited about, as we move forward, the infrastructure that is growing, the skills and services that are available now, trustee to trustee, it's only going to get better and better and better. And hopefully, as time goes on, we have little nodes of protected property where, you know, retreat centers and healing centers and, you know, organic farms that all work together in private so that they don't have to get pushed around by these, you know, ridiculous mandates and overbearing statute law. And that's what our goal is. That's what we're trying to facilitate. That's the portal that we're trying to open. And yeah, if you resonate with that, we would love to get you on board and see how we can work together.
Awesome, everybody. We're going to sign off now. And so thank you very much, everyone. We'll be posting a link to this or sending it out to you. Just stay tuned. Keep yourself in the loop, and we'll get the information out to you. So thanks, everyone. Take care.
Yeah, blessings, guys.